a mysterious soldier shows up and has an interaction with Joshua. And we saw that it was Jesus coming to take charge of the army and to lead them through the promised land conquest. And that's where we left the story last week. So let's check on chapter 6. This is going to be awesome. Check it out. Verse 1. Now Jericho was shut up inside and outside because of the people of Israel. None went out and none came in. Joshua is looking at Jericho, their first conquest, and he's standing there with the Lord, with the commander of the army, and they're looking at their formidable foe, which is Jericho. And the text gives us some information about what Jericho looked like. When Joshua looks at Jericho, what is he seeing when he's looking at Jericho? He sees a city that is completely locked down. No one's coming in. No one's going out. There's nobody outside. It's completely shut up inside. It is literally a vault. It is shut tight. Absolutely shut tight. And I wonder what Joshua is thinking, because it's already pretty daunting, but to have the whole place just locked down, man, that must have been a moment. But check out what the Lord says in verse 2. The Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have given Jericho into your hand with its kings and mighty men of valor," he says. "See, the city is yours." This is another one of those tensions that we've been seeing from the beginning, where Joshua is seeing something that's absolutely not conquerable, and the Lord saying, "See, they're already conquered." And this is the tension that he's seeing, because Joshua is seeing a city that's very much intact and very strong. But the Lord said, nope, they are already yours. Look at verse 3. You shall do what? March around the city, all the men of war. How many?
All.
Yep, going around the city once. Thus shall you do for how long?
6 days.
6 days. 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. On the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 more times, and the priests will blow the trumpet. Okay, so that's what the Lord says. So Joshua and the commander of the Lord's army, they're having a powwow in the war room. And Joshua's like, all right, we're ready. We're armed. We're ready. We're consecrated. We've done the Passover. Everything is good to go. We are ready for our orders. We are ready for the battle plan. And the Lord's like, okay, here's the plan. Walk around the city. Okay, we're going to walk around the city. That sounds great. Joshua's like, okay, then what? Then you're going to walk around the city. Okay, then we get to fight? No, you're going to walk around the city. Okay, then what? Then we get to fight? Nah, you're going to walk around the city. Okay, this is the master plan. This must have been so interesting for Joshua to swallow. He is ready. He's armed up. He hears this battle plan. And then it says in verse 5, after all that marching around, the Lord's like, okay, and then we're going to do this other thing. Look at verse 5. Then, after all the marching, you're going to make a long blast with the ram's horn. And when you hear the sound of the trumpet, then we fight. No. Then all the people are going to yell really loud. And then we fight? No. They're going to yell really loud with a great shout, and the walls will come tumbling down. That is the battle plan. Okay, look at verse 6. So Joshua says, all right, that's an interesting plan. He's going to take it to his generals. He's going to take it to the soldiers because it was just commander to commander. And now Joshua has to tell the soldiers what the plan is. And check it out. Verse 6. So Joshua called the priests to them and said, take up the ark of the covenant and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord. And he said to the people, go forward, march around the city, and let the armed men pass before the ark of the Lord. What is the army thinking? Remember, this is a whole new thing. What they think is happening is not happening. This is the Spirit-filled walk of faith. And the Lord is taking command of this army, and he's doing things the way that the Lord would have them be done. And Joshua must have absolutely been flabbergasted by this plan. But the Lord's like, this is what we're doing. Joshua, you keep your eye on the ark and march. That's all you're going to be doing. That's your part. Look at verse 8. So Joshua commanded the people, the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Lord, went forward, blowing the trumpets, with the ark of the covenant of the Lord following them. The armed men were walking before the priests who were blowing the trumpets, and the rear guard was walking after the ark while the trumpets blew continually. But Joshua commanded the people, you shall not shout, don't make any noise. Not one voice should be heard, neither shall any word go out of your mouth until the day that I tell you to shout. Then you shall shout. So he caused the ark of the Lord to circle the city, going about it once. And they came into the camp and spent the night in the camp. And the morning and evening was the first day. Day 1. I was reading this again today, and check this out. So the priests are carrying the ark. Everybody is circling the city. It is completely silent, except for one thing. Did you guys catch the one thing that would make noise the whole time? The ram's horn, the trumpet, said that it would blow continually. I was thinking about that. Have you guys heard a ram's horn from Israel? This specific blast is the long blast, so it's the first blast where it's just a long held out note. They would have circled the city, and it says that the trumpets were to blow continually. So they would take turns blowing this ram's horn, and that's what everybody could hear. Imagine it being completely silent, being inside of Jericho, and all you can hear is the war cry of Jehovah. That's it. No voices, no swords, nothing else, just the ram's horn. This must have put their skin on prickly. You know what I mean? For 6 days. So they circle around one time with the ram's horn blowing, nobody saying anything, and then they go back to camp. Pop quiz. Where is camp? Gilgal, remember Gilgal is base camp. So anytime they went out, they would come back to camp. So once they were done with that, it wouldn't have taken them very long. Jericho was about 9 acres, okay? So they would go around once and then they would come back to camp. What's the plan here? It is take a lap, then take a nap. That's the plan. Literally, that is the plan. Okay, look at verse 12. So Joshua rose early the next day, day 2. And the priests took up the ark of the Lord, and the 7 priests, bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the ark of the Lord, walked on, and they blew the trumpets continually. That's all. They just kept blowing. And the armed men were walking before them, and the rear guard was walking behind the ark while the trumpets blew continually. And the second day, they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. And morning and evening was day 2. Took a lap, took a nap. Day 3, they got up. They do the same thing. They come back to camp, take a lap, take a nap. Day 4, around, come back to camp, take a lap, take a nap. Day 5, day 6. Okay, you guys got this? This is awesome. Okay, look at verse 15. But on the 7th day, this is going to be different. On the 7th day, they rose early at the dawn of the day, and they marched around the city in the same manner 7 times. Not 1 time, but 7 times. It was only on that day that they marched around 7 times. And at the 7th time, when the priests had blown the trumpets, Joshua said to the people, do what? Shout, for the Lord has given you the city, right? The Lord has given you the city. You guys, this is so cool. This is the battle plan. Go around once, come back to camp. Go around twice, come back to camp. It is absolutely silent except for the ram's horn. But on the 7th day, they marched around how many times? 7 times, and then they could finally do what? Whatever they did, shout. Right? And then it says that the walls came tumbling down. We're going to see that in a minute. Now, I brought a video. Here's what it is. It is a mesh together of 2 different things. First, drive-through history, which I absolutely love. He's boots on the ground in Jericho. And in archaeology from Bible archaeology. And I kind of smashed them together and made it a quicker video. It's about 7 minutes. And I'm going to play that for you. And it's going to show you what archaeology has proved out of what the walls falling down would look like. Okay? So roll the tape.
I've just arrived on the northern end of the Dead Sea at the ancient city of Jericho. Now, Jericho is said to be the oldest continuously inhabited city on the planet. And at 800 feet below sea level, it also holds the record for the lowest city in the world. That's right, you can't live any lower than Jericho. Well, I guess you could dig a tunnel under Jericho, call it a town, elect yourself mayor, and voila, new world record. But Jericho doesn't suffer from any inferiority complex being so low. It is actually quite popular as a tourist destination.
Must have a ski resort. Can't wait to try the black diamonds.
The city of Jericho is one of the most excavated sites in Israel. German excavations at the beginning of the 20th century revealed houses of mud brick built right into the fortified walls. Some tie that evidence to the Joshua chapter 2 passage about Rahab. Then she let them down by a rope through the window, for her house was built into the city wall, so that she lived in the wall. Now, starting with the Canaanites, sometime in the Middle Bronze Age, a wall was constructed around the city. Now, this wall would later become the most famous wall in the world after Joshua and the Israelites came knocking after they crossed the Jordan River at the end of their 40-year wilderness wanderings. Now, the Bible says that Jericho was the first stop for the Israelites after they crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land. Now, imagine the scene. You're a Canaanite security guard, and you look out this direction and you see more people approaching than you've ever seen in your entire life. I cannot imagine what he must have been thinking, but I bet it was not, welcome to Jericho. Come, stay a while, have some tea. Marry my daughter.
Both the stone wall and the mud brick wall on top of it made up the outer wall that surrounded the city. Further up the embankment was another mud brick wall. This wall is what the Israelites were looking at as they marched around the city. This stone-facing wall, on top of it, a high mud brick wall. As they were marching around the city, they must have been thinking, how are we going to capture this city? Because it is so well fortified. Referring to our ancient text, Joshua 6:20 says that on the seventh day, at the sound of the trumpets, the wall collapsed.
And the Bible is very specific in how it describes that event. The Hebrew wording there is the walls takatha, fell beneath themselves. And on the seventh trip around, we're told in the Bible, the mud brick wall collapsed and it fell outward and down to the base of the stone retaining wall. And when the archaeologists dug in this area, they found this pile of mud bricks all the way along the retaining wall.
So where I am right now is where the pile of red bricks were found.
That's correct.
These fallen bricks from the city wall can be seen in this diagram from Kenyon's excavation report. In her write-up, she makes it clear that it was not the stone retaining wall that fell, but rather the mud brick wall that once stood on top of it.
And so she writes that up in her report, that here we have a collapsed city wall, and here's the evidence for it.
The archaeological understanding of how the walls of Jericho fell matches well with the ancient description of the wall falling beneath itself.
This find of a collapsed city wall found here at Jericho is unique in archaeology. At no other site have we found evidence for a city wall that has fallen down.
So the Bible says that the wall came tumbling down. The archaeologists then came and dug Jericho, and what did they find? They found a collapsed city wall. This fits perfectly with the description from the ancient text.
And when you have that text, and you have the archaeology, and you can fit them together, then you have the evidence from both sides, the literary evidence and the actual physical evidence from what the Bible is talking about.
Another interesting detail regarding the walls of Jericho is found in Joshua 6:20. It says that after the walls collapsed, the Israelites went up into the city. Kenyon's excavation report shows that the pile of fallen mud bricks could have been used as a ramp by the charging Israelites.
Because that would be a problem, wouldn't it? I mean, if the soldiers were charging, there was a mud brick wall up there. Even with that mud brick wall gone, I mean, this is what are they supposed to do? I mean, climb up the wall to attack. So what Kenyon's report says is that mud brick wall collapsed off of this foundation, and it went all the way up to the top of the rim there, and it formed a it formed a ramp like this so that when the charging army would come, they could have run up into the city to attack it.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what the Bible says. Each man went before him straight up into the city, and they could do that by just climbing up over that pile of collapsed mud bricks, up over the top of the stone retaining wall, up the embankment, and into the city.
As soon as the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted a great shout, and the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they captured the city.
Cool, huh? The archaeology. So cool. Love it. Okay, check out verse 17. The city and all that is within it shall be devoted to the Lord for destruction. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who are with you in the house shall live, because she hid the messengers whom we sent. Now, we talked about this a little while ago, but remember Rahab, she's still waiting. She is waiting for her deliverance, and Joshua is going to make good on his promise. But check this out. Commit this to memory, because next week we're going to talk all about this. You keep yourselves from the things, what? Devoted to destruction, lest when you have devoted them, you take any of the devoted things and make the camp of Israel a thing for destruction and bring trouble upon it. What's the Lord saying? Listen, everything in this city is devoted. Don't touch it. If you bring anything back to camp, you're going to bring trouble on it. Verse 19. But all the silver and gold and every vessel of bronze and iron are holy to the Lord. They shall go into what? The treasury of the Lord. Okay, so other than silver and gold and precious jewels, metals, things like that, that would go into the treasury of the Lord. Everything else is supposed to be burned. It is devoted to destruction. Look at verse 20. So the people shouted, and the trumpets were blown. As soon as the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted a great shout, and the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they captured the city. Then they devoted all in the city to destruction, men, women, young, old, oxen, sheep, donkeys, with the edge of the sword. But to the two men who had spied out the land, Joshua said, "Go get Rahab," right? Bring her out. So they did. Verse 24. And they burned the entire city with fire, everything in it. Only the silver, the gold, the vessels, the bronze, the iron, they put into the treasury of the Lord. But Rahab the prostitute and her father's household and all who belonged to Joshua saved alive, and she lived with Israel to this day. Okay, that is the story. It's awesome. Rahab is saved just as the Lord designed. Everything in the city was to be devoted to destruction, except for the gold, the silver, the metals, the jewelry, that kind of stuff. That went into the treasury of the Lord. Okay, keep all that in mind for next week. That's going to be very important. For tonight, we're going to start over and look at this story in a little bit of a different light. What can we learn about the walk of faith from this battle of Jericho? What can we learn? Remember, Joshua is like a manual of how to live in the walk of faith. That's why it's so detailed about everything. And Jericho is another one of those. Things to know about the battles of Jericho when you're in the walk of faith. And this is where your rules of engagement page comes in. If you guys have those, we're going to follow the rules of engagement. And get ready to flip around because it's going to be awesome. Okay, rules of engagement. Number 1, victory is assured in battles of the Spirit. Victory is assured in the battles of the Spirit, and war is supernatural. The Lord said in verse 2, I have given. Who is it that gave Jericho to Joshua? The Lord, right? He's the victor. Victory was already assured in battles of the Spirit. Jericho was a battle of the Spirit. Battles that are waged in the Spirit-filled life are never natural. They're always spiritual. Okay? Flip over to 1 Samuel chapter 17. I want to show you a couple things. And also keep a finger in Ephesians because we're going to go over there also. 1 Samuel chapter 17. In context is Goliath. He's in the valley. He's messing with Israel, and Saul doesn't know what to do. Saul is tall, and you think that he would be the one to go out there, but no, he doesn't want to go out there. And so David volunteers with the Lord's prodding to be the one that goes out to the battlefield. But before he does, there's an encounter with David and Saul, and I want us to look at it. 1 Samuel chapter 17, look at verse 38. Saul clothed David with what? His armor. Saul's armor. Remember, David is a very young teenager and Saul is tall. So this probably isn't going to fit. Okay, but Saul is trying to put his armor on David. He put a helmet of bronze on his head and clothed him with a coat of mail. And David strapped his sword over his armor, and he tried in vain to walk out of the tent, to go, right? To take a step. For he had not what? Tested them. Then David said to Saul, I can't go with these. I can't go with these. I have not tested them. So David put them off. And he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the brook and put them in his shepherd's pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. Let's talk about the armor. Saul was trying to put armor on David. Armor of the flesh. Physical armor, and it did not fit. This was a spiritual war, and David knew it. It's the wrong armor. What armor do you need for spiritual warfare? Our armor. Check out Ephesians chapter 6. Listen to this in the context of 1 Samuel chapter 17. Look at verse 10. It says, finally, be strong in yourself. No, be strong in somebody else's armor that's flesh. No, be strong in the Lord, in the strength of His might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may do what? Be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. It's not a physical war. It's a spiritual war. You need spiritual armor. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. It's not Goliath and Jericho that we are ultimately warring over. It is always spiritual. It's not against flesh and blood, but against what? Rulers, authorities, principalities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. We need the spiritual armor to fight the spiritual war. David knew that. We know that. Armoring up in ourselves and our own strength is never going to take Jericho down. You need this spiritual armor. The Lord is teaching Joshua a whole bunch of lessons in this. Without his strength and his armor, we have no shot. Why? Because the war is spiritual. That's why. Put your whole armor on, every piece, to protect every piece of yourself in a spiritual way. Proverbs 21, verse 31 says that the horse is prepared for the day of battle, but the victory belongs to the Lord. And that's true. If you are in the Spirit and on the battlefield, then victory is yours. That's what the Lord kept telling Joshua. Now, I'm going to flip back over to 1 Samuel chapter 17 if you're still there, because not only is the armor spiritual, not Saul's, but the weapons are spiritual. And this is really interesting. I'm going to read verse 41. So the Philistine, that's Goliath, moved forward and came near to David with his shield bearer in front of him. His shield was so heavy, he had to have somebody else carry it for him. And when the Philistine looked and saw David, check this out, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, ruddy and handsome in appearance. And the Philistine said to David, "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine said to David, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field." Do you hear this? What does the enemy come at us first before he does anything else? What is the Philistine doing to David? Intimidation. Everything that the Philistine does to David is what comes out of his mouth. He curses him, he slanders him, he puts him down, he belittles him, he tries to instill fear in him, he makes him feel like an idiot. Isn't that what our enemy does? The weapons of our enemy, one of his most keenest weapons, is the battlefield of the mind. It is what he says to us, how he discourages us, how he brings fear to us. But 2 Corinthians, write this down. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, listen to what Paul says about this very type of weapon. The weapon of words, the weapon that gets right into the battlefield of our mind. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4 says, "For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds." Now he's going to tell us what the strongholds are. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ. This is awesome. Paul says, listen, the weapons of our warfare, they are to destroy the strongholds. And we're like, yeah, strongholds. But Paul defines what the strongholds are. Arguments, words, discouragement, Everything that happens in your mind, he said, listen, you have to learn to take every thought captive, because war is won and lost right here in your head. David too, he's out on the battlefield, and before anybody swings any weapon, the enemy is after him right in his thoughts, right in his head, trying to take him down. What was Goliath doing to David? Trying to destroy him in his mind, trying to take him out. Our enemy loves to weaken us right here in the battlefield of our mind. That's really important to know. All of our warfare is spiritual, and so much of it is won or lost in our thought life, you see, and that is so true. Victory is assured in the spirit because the Lord wins. I have given. Question: what about battles that we try to wage in our flesh? In the spirit-filled life, everything about the spirit-filled life is spiritual. What if we're having a flesh-out day and try to go to war? What happens? Defeat! That's what happens every time. As sure as victory is assured in the spirit battlefield that the Lord puts us on, flesh will defeat us just as quickly. Keep that in mind, because next week we're going to get a taste of what that looks like. Even in the walk of faith, even across the Jordan, if we choose to walk in the flesh, we will get taken down every single time. So, victory in the spirit, yes. Defeat in the flesh, equally true. So we need to remember in the battles of Jericho that the war is spiritual. And if you're trying to wage war in the flesh, put on Saul's armor. Let the enemy taunt you in the brain. If you start fleshing out, it'll be defeat every time. This is important to note. Okay, that's rule of engagement number 1. Number 2. Number 2 is engage in the battle that is assigned to you. The Lord said, I have given what? In verse 2. I have given Jericho, right? I have given Jericho. This is really important. Follow your own orders. Stay in bounds. Remember the stay in bounds? Still true. Fight the battles that are assigned to you, but also don't be bummed out by your assignment. Listen, in the kingdom, there is no measure of big or small when it comes to warfare. I have this is actually my favorite story, and it's really short. 2 Samuel, I love this story. 2 Samuel chapter 23, and actually you can keep a finger in Samuel because we're going to go back and forth. 2 Samuel chapter 23. Check this out. This is the list of David's mighty men, okay? They were like ninja seals, the cream of the crop, 600 of them, and they all go down in ink for the battles, for the assignments that they specifically were given. And this is my absolute favorite one, hands down, 2 Samuel chapter 23, verse 11. This is a mighty man of valor, keep that in mind, who was given an assignment by the Lord to be a ninja. And check out what he has to do. Look at verse 11. Next to him was Shammah, the son of Agi the Hararite. Check this out. Shammah, this is his assignment. The Philistines gathered together at Leah, where there was a plot of ground full of He was guarding a hill of beans. The Navy SEAL, Shammah, no joke. His assignment was a hill of beans. Literally. Check it out. And the men fled from the Philistines. But Shammah, he took his stand in the middle of that bean field, in the middle of the plot of land, and defended it and struck down the Philistines. And the Lord worked a great victory. Ha! They reverse. Now, he is in the middle of the entire chronicle of the mighty men, the top like 30. And it says that he was next to this guy and next to this guy. He's in the middle. These guys had killer wars. Like the kind that you're like, you want to write home about. And in the middle, here's Shammah guarding his hill of beans. Now, he could have been super bummed out about that his assignment was hill of beans. But what did he do? He took his stand and he whomped on the enemy. And it says that the Lord gave great victory that day. If you are doing what the Lord assigned to you, no matter what it is, the reward is yours. Shammah was rewarded. It didn't matter that his battlefield wasn't awesome or something to write home about. It didn't matter. He wasn't brooding that he had this little tiny job. He just did what the Lord told him to do, and he had great victory. And he goes down in the canon as a warrior, Shammah, for the hill of beans. This is so encouraging. Okay, here's another one to write down. We won't read it for time. But 1 Samuel chapter 30, I'll get over there to read a couple verses too. But 1 Samuel chapter 30, let me set this up for you. David and his guys, the same guys, the 600, they are exhausted from war. They've been warring all night long, and they marched home overnight back to their camp, only to find that it had been raided by the Amalekites, and their wives and their kids were all gone. They had been taken, captured, kidnapped in the middle of the night, and the guys are so exhausted from this battle that they were in and then marching home that they basically just sat down and started crying, these grown men. They were so exhausted, so defeated, and they come home and their families are gone. It's horrible. And they just are crying out. They couldn't even stand up. They're just like, they're worn out. And it's 1 Samuel chapter 30. So look at, I'll read verse 6 to you if you're not there. It says, but David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. And David said to the priest, bring me the ephod. So they do this whole thing. David is told to pursue the family. Verse 9, he sets out. Okay, he's got his 600 men with him, the mighty men of valor, and 400 of them go along with David. 200 of them are so exhausted they can't go any farther. They stop right there at the brook. They tried to go with David. Their families are out there, their kids are out there, but they are so physically spent, they can't go any farther. So they end up staying behind at the brook to guard all the stuff, their supplies, their loot, their backpacks, all their stuff. 200 of them stayed behind. The 400 go on with David. They save the families. Yay! Everybody comes back. The 400 are a little disgruntled because they were tired too. Okay? But they went out and did it, and listen to what David says. This is so good. Look at verse Verse 24. Who would listen to you in this matter, he says. For as his share is who goes down into the battle, so shall his share be who stays with the baggage. They share alike. What's David saying? Listen, sometimes you're the guy who can keep going and fighting while your brother stays behind. Sometimes you're the one who's too exhausted to go and you get to stay behind and they go. But we are all in this together and you share in the reward alike. And that is how the kingdom of the Lord is. Remember what he says? Listen, one tills, one throws seed out there, one waters, one tends, and then one person gets the harvest. Remember that when it talks about talking to a soul? But he says everybody gets the reward. If you had a hand in that field, you get equal reward. It's true. Engage in what the Lord called you to do. You're not going to miss out. If you're doing what the Lord is calling you to do, there's no way to miss out. The Lord is too gracious for that. So do what the Lord has assigned you every single time. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 2, write this one down. It says, it is required of stewards that they be found faithful. That is what the Lord calls us to. Matthew chapter 25, verse 21 says that in the end we will all hear, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over little, I will set you over much. Just be faithful in what the Lord calls you to do. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 17. This one's really important. Only let each person lead the life that the Lord has assigned to you. That's pretty clear. Let's read that again. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 17. Only let each person lead the life that the Lord assigned to him. Faithfulness, you guys, is the measure of a soldier, not the scale of the opponent. That does not matter. Faithful. Be faithful to your hill of beans. Shammah was. Whatever you do, do it with all your heart, as unto the Lord, not unto men. Okay, so number 2 is engage in what's assigned to you. Number 3, the outcome was not immediate. For 6 days, they were to march around the city, come back to camp, take a lap, take a nap. Why did the Lord have them do that on day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Why did he do that? Why? Why not just bring the walls down? He could have done it. Not only that, why didn't the Lord just take the stronghold out? They knew that Jericho was coming down, so why not just knock it over? Why do we have to do this day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4? What's the point of that? Sometimes the Lord does not sweep in swiftly. Anybody? Sometimes the Lord does not do that. Actually, most of the time, in my case, he does not do that. Why not? Because the Lord is teaching his kids persistent obedience in the delay. They had to get up and they had to do it. And they had to be obedient, even though they saw absolutely nothing happening at all. It's sanctification and abiding and trusting and waiting and resting and all these verbs that are really hard to do. That's what he's after. It takes faith, you guys, to keep doing the last thing the Lord told you to do until he tells you to do something else. It takes faith. Remember what the Lord said when they were crossing the Jordan? Give the ark room to move. Remember that? Follow the ark and give it some distance. Don't push ahead. Don't run behind. You keep in step with the Spirit. And sometimes that is day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sometimes it is. Now, turn over to Hebrews if you can. We're going to stay here for a minute. Hebrews chapter 6. Check this out. Hebrews chapter 6, verse 10. Take this to heart. You servants who love Jesus and serve and have all these ministries, I know every single one of us. Listen to what the Lord says. Hebrews chapter 6, verse 10. God is not unjust, so as to overlook your work and the love that you have shown for his name in serving the saints, as you still do. Listen, the Lord sees you, saint, servant, bride. He is not overlooking you. Listen to this. Take this one home. He does not overlook your work and the love that you have shown for his name in serving the saints, as you still do. And we desire each one of you to show the same earnestness, haste, to have the full assurance of hope until the end, so that you may not be sluggish, but imitators of those who through faith and patience inherit the promises. Listen, be imitators of those who through faith, believing in what you can't see, and patience, which is consistency and steadfastness, to inherit the promises. It is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Listen, as you're running and racing and serving and loving and ministry and everything, it feels like sometimes the daily grind without the Lord even noticing what you're doing. Hebrews says, no, he sees you. It is faith and it is patient endurance, and he's after it. That's why he doesn't take Jericho down on day 1. It is maturing his kids. Ha! Look at chapter 10, verse 35. Check this out. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 35. Therefore, do not throw away your confidence. Don't chuck it out the window. Don't throw it in the trash can. Your confidence, don't do it, which has a great reward. For you have need of endurance. Anybody? Anybody have a need for endurance? Yes. So that when you have done the will of God, you may receive what is promised. That's so good. Don't throw away your confidence. Don't chuck it out the window. We have a need for endurance. How do we get endurance if the Lord doesn't make us endure anything patiently? It's the whole thing, like, don't pray for peace. Or don't pray for patience, because what's going to happen? He's going to chuck you into the kiln where you need a lot of patience. Nobody wants that. He says, listen, endurance, that is what you want. James chapter 1, I'm going to flip over. James chapter 1, verse 3 and 4 says this. You know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Yeah, it does. So let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Does anybody want to be perfect and complete when it comes to walking with Jesus? Do you know how you get it? You have to let steadfastness have its full effect. Day 1, 2, 3, 4, 27, 28, 35. You know what I'm saying? That's what he says. It's how you do it. He is using your faith muscle. It's endurance, you see. The delay grows faith muscles that produces in you steadfastness, constancy, and endurance. Why is the outcome delayed? Because he's raising kids who can endure. That's why. Okay, number 4. Participation is required. How many soldiers marched according to verse 3? Why did all of them have to go? If the battle was assured and the Lord was going to take the city down anyway and victory was theirs, why did they all have to march? The walls would not fall down without participation. If Israel had stayed in their tents, the walls wouldn't have fallen down. And that's the truth. The Lord was going to do it, but he wasn't going to do it without them. It's participation. Living faith moves feet. This is something Joshua is figuring it out. The conquest is theirs, but they have to go do it. Hebrews 11, verse 30 is about Jericho. I'm going to read this to you. It says, by faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after they had been circled 7 days. I'm going to read that again. That's what it says. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after they had walked around it for 7 days. What's the order of that? They walk around for 7 days and then the walls fall down. That's on purpose, you see. Now, number 5. The plan was unconventional. It didn't make any sense. Take a lap, take a nap. That was the battle plan. Joshua and the army never unsheathed their sword. Not until the walls fell down. Not this time. We're going to see that in future battles, they will be in the fight from the get-go. They will even initiate most of the fights through the conquest, but not this time. Faith is not logical. It's without sight by default. It takes faith to believe that the walls would fall down for no reason at all. There's no reason for the walls to fall down. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declare the Lord. For the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain and the snow come down from heaven and do not return there, but water the earth, bringing it forth and sprout, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish that which I purpose, and shall succeed in the thing for which I sent it. I love that. Listen, the Lord has plans for us, and they are not usually very conventional. Like, this makes no sense. He says, listen, your thoughts are not my thoughts. I can see all the way to the end. I know what I am doing. And Joshua had to trust that, even though it made zero sense to him at all. The strategy was intentionally beyond human reasoning. The Lord was teaching Joshua something about this conquest that he as a warrior needed to know. We walk by faith, not by sight. Imagine what Israel looked like to Jericho. Jericho that's watching them march around in a circle and then go back to camp. And then they come back. I mean, they must have been like, oh, they're back again. You know, all we hear is a trumpet. By day 3 and 4, you think they're getting a little more comfortable? They would be used to it. Maybe they wouldn't even come out and watch. Corinthians tells us that the Lord likes to use the foolish things to confound the wise, so that his glory will be displayed. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 26 through 30. And that's true. But in the end, what seemed foolish to the world confounded Canaan. And the walls came tumbling down. God won. And the fame of it spread out throughout the entire world at the time, which is wild. Okay, number 6, last one. Number 6. You must finish the battle plan. Verse 20 tells us that on the 7th day, they went 7 times, right? For a total of how many times did they circle the city? 7 on the last day plus 6. So how many times? 13, right? Which means 12 times wouldn't have done it. It had to be 13 times. The Lord said, listen, you got to do this all the way through. You have to finish the race. You have to run it all the way through. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 and 2 says that we should run the race with endurance, the race that is set before us with our eyes fixed on Jesus. Those exhortations are all over the word to finish your race. Not someone else's race, not someone else's hill of beans, your race, in bounds, what the Lord has given to you, and not halfway. Jericho required endurance all the way through the 13th lap. They would not see it until they finished it all the way through. You see, and that is us as well. Sometimes we want to give up on lap 10, 11, 12, 22, 48, 67. The Lord's like, come on, one more. 68, 69. And then the walls come down at 70. If we would have stopped short, the Lord's like, no, keep going. That's how Jericho was. It was something that Joshua was learning. You have to finish the battle plan all the way to the end. Fight the good fight. Finish the race, Paul exhorted us to do. The rules of engagement in the spirit-filled life is from an upside-down kingdom. It doesn't follow earth's rules. It follows heaven's rules. We fight from victory, not for victory. And that is different. Our participation is different. The wars are different. The weapons are different. Everything is different. But we are called and privileged to participate in the battle nonetheless. The Lord is partnering with us shoulder to shoulder. It's how He designed it. And Israel wouldn't have missed this for the world. This would have been an epic day, that Jericho falls down, that Rahab was saved, that the spoils went into the treasury, and all the things. That must have just buoyed up their heart, because faith was sight that day. They saw it happen. The Lord promised it, and it came to pass. Now, there's one more rule of engagement, and we're going to save it for next week, because it is important and it all comes to play in chapter 7.